particular, started by the Director General, Mrs. Ronke Shuyombo. Yeah, okay. So now we have Mrs. Ayeni Seriki, is it? Yeah. So she's the current Director General. So, okay. The first school I'm going to tell you about is a sixth form school, and that is OTC. Do you know what that stands for? It's in GRA in Ikeja. Oxbridge, thank you very much. Oxbridge Tutorial College. So I was there for a number of years, and I think it was about coming to the end of my second month. It was a Friday afternoon, and we were told on the Monday, the OEQA are going to come in. They're coming for a 2-day visit, if you want a 2-day inspection, so get ready. And so we got ready. I'm not too sure it was actually on Monday or Tuesday, but anyway, we got ready in a few hours, the best we could, and we presented. And on Monday morning, we had 2 minibuses show up, and 24 inspectors came out. This is the way they do it. Yes, 24 inspectors came out, and they spent 2 days with us, and they did see most of the teachers. They looked at most of the teachers in terms of lesson observations, and they spoke to me like 2 or 3 times, and I'm always happy to speak to educators. We're just sharing. And at some stage, it seemed like I was almost lecturing. They said, oh, don't lecture, just tell us. And so I had to just tell them. But long and short of it is that at the end of the second day, when they were leaving, they said to us, Oxbridge Tutorial College, you're outstanding. And so they sent their 10-page report, and it was outstanding. I thought you were going to clap there. Yes, you can clap. Okay, so that's Oxbridge Tutorial College. A few days' notice, we had this. I'll also tell you about the school in which I presently serve, because yes, Mr. Adedokun was saying Maxpoint. He said Maxpoint, but it's actually Maxpoint, which stands for Maximizing Potential, as in maximizing the potential of all your students. Okay, so that's what the company stands for. And I work 3 days a week in a place now called Bridge House College, which also is a sixth form school. And I think, well, to tell the full story, or fairly abridged, they had applied for it about 4 years ago, COBIS, but it was just a membership. So when you apply for COBIS, which is Council of British International Schools, okay. So when you apply for COBIS, you can apply for COBIS compliance, or you can apply for COBIS patrons accreditation and compliance. That's the full one. It had, the school had already applied for just compliance, and so we pursued that when I started there as a consultant, and then when I became the substantive principal, we went on and we continued the process. So it was in my first year of being there full time, and it took quite a while. We had a gentleman come down from Day Waterman, and he was our, we call it lead improvement partner, LIP. He was our lead improvement partner. And it took us quite a while, because with COBIS, you see, it's a very what we call a collegiate system, whereby they work with you and they identify, and there's a back and forth. She just stood up in one of our SLTs, senior leadership team meetings, and she said, "We're not ready. We're not ready. We're not ready. We're not ready." It was in a bit of a panic, and we thought, let's just calm down a bit. Even if it seems like we're not ready, let's, we're 2 weeks away now. We're a team, and we have to pull together. Okay. Did I change it? We're a team and we have to pull together. You see, that's the reason why that one is particularly there. So, COBIS came in, and this time there were 4 people. There was the lead improvement partner, who came in from Romania. I think she was the head there at the time. And then we had 1 in country, 1 from Uganda, and someone who came in from the COBIS main office. Okay, so all 4 came in and they looked at it. And at one time, I could admit to you, it was probably a bit touch and go, and they were thinking, where are we? Yes, you definitely got compliance, but let's see about accreditation in terms of your teaching and learning, your pedagogy. And we had a number of things, and this is where, as we were saying earlier on in the previous session, leadership is pretty important. I've seen it happen almost on 2 occasions, whereby one was with the Office of Education Quality Assurance when we were in Oxbridge. They now sit down in the leadership and they're thinking, well, even if some of the things are not totally there, what is your vision? How come you haven't embarked on this journey? And if you can get out something called a school improvement plan, and I'm going to pause there and ask you, hand up if you have a school improvement plan. You might go by a different name. It might be a raised attainment plan. It might be a school development plan. But hand up if you have one. And if you don't have one, just please make a note. I can see one or two hands. Just please make a note. School improvement plan or school development plan. You need it. It's crucial. Because sometimes for financial reasons, it could even be that there's something you're considering implementing, but you haven't quite started it yet. Or you've started it and it's fairly inchoate, as in it's fairly formative. But if you can show that you have a plan to work your way to where you want to be or where you ought to be, they will take that into consideration. And that's what happened eventually with this COVID. So, long and short of it, in Meadowhall, we had a first for Nigeria, and I can even say a first for Africa. We were the first school in Africa to get the COBIS patrons accreditation and compliance. Thank you very much. And there we were settling down, basking in the glory of that. Well, it's all the goodness of God. And we were thinking, isn't this nice? We've got it eventually. And then 2 weeks later, I think it was a similar lead-up time, but this time I think we had like 2 days' notice. We were told that the Office of Education Quality Assurance in Meadowhall was going to come in. But because we had geared up for COBIS, we were in battle. We were in battle dress. We were in battle mode. So we said, bring it on. And they came in. And I can remember one of the inspectors saying to me, they would ask for this. We just have it ready. The last for that was say, here you go. And be like, are you saying you want to be good or outstanding? I'm like, well, we're just going to show you what you're asking us for. And we kept giving them paperwork after paperwork, answering question after question, and they would go for lesson observations, and they'll come back and they'll be like, whoa, that was a lesson. I never knew that there were such good teachers. Because I can tell you that in that particular school, I'm going to boast of the school if I can, some very good teachers. I tell you, one day, we went to Lasso, small sidetrack, we went to Lasso, and some people had been teaching. And you can read the room, you can read body language. And people were just there. That's because it was a program taking place in Lasso, and some other people were teaching. And then there were 4 classrooms, and I could just walk past the 4 classrooms, and I just saw 4 Meadowhall teachers teaching. And then you just see everyone was sat up, everyone was alert, people were participating, people were engaged. And then you think, well, this is proper teaching and learning now going on. So because the teaching and learning, what they saw there, they were really impressed with it. Now they finished and they said outstanding. So I've told you about the 3 schools. One, an A-level school, which was COBIS, and we got what we applied for. Likewise, another one was the Office of Education Quality Assurance, and Meadowhall was both COBIS, and a few weeks later, we had. So, if Mr. Adedoku had said to me, recommend someone for this session, I would have recommended myself. And I do not boast, I only boast in the Lord, or in the goodness of God. And so, but one thing I will tell you, which I'll probably reiterate when I'm giving you some tips, is that it's not a one-person job. It's not about a Mr. Opesan, it's not about a Dr. Nwani, it's not about anyone, it's about the collective. Yeah, you can tell the person next to you it's about the collective. Yeah? It's about teamwork. And I was about to put the tug of war that took place in something called, what was it called, the Squid Games. I'm not too sure if you've watched a film, the series called Squid Game, because that was more a life and death situation in terms of a tug war. But you really need to have a strategy. And you see, the reason why it involves everyone, you cannot leave out your gateman. You cannot leave out your driver. You cannot leave out the people who clean your school. If you think you'd leave them out, that they will not be noticed, it would come out. It would come out that you're not all on the same team and you're going in different directions. And once that seems to happen, or it seems to be the case, you'll be surprised that once they see there's a divide, it's easier to investigate it a bit more and then come out with this idea that maybe you're not quite ready for the accreditation. So that's the context, and that's really the longest story I'm going to tell you. Our agenda for today. Can I get you to read it out, please?
Sure. Quality, context, assessors frameworks, 7 tips, and Q&A.
Okay. What time do you say you want me to finish again? 5 to... Okay, now I'm going to try and be on the clock today because we've got people waiting as well. And I know that... Okay, I'm going to go back to this first one. So in terms of quality, let's just look... Do you know what we're looking at in that picture there? Can you see what we're looking at? So I'm going to simply say to you, because I'm a teacher, so I'm just going to say to you, you have to do the work, sir. Sorry. You're going to have to do the work. So if I said to you, the country Switzerland, or the people Swiss, the Swiss, yes? If I said to you, what are they known for? I need to have my glasses on. If I said to you, what are they known for? Time, good. Wristwatches, what else? Yes, I was there recently actually. I traveled there, was it this year? I think it was this year. Geneva, the first time I went there. Yes. Bonjour, bonjour. What do they keep telling me? Je vous prie, je vous en prie. Yes, that's welcome. Yes, bienvenue. Another way of saying that. So, they're known for chocolates, some of the best chocolates there, Belgian, Swiss, yes. And in terms of wristwatches, they've got what they call the top 3. And this one, maybe one of these days, you know it. She knows it. I didn't know it. I googled this yesterday. So there's the Patek Philippe, or probably if you were to say it the French way, Patek Philippe. Yes. So it's known for quality. They're handcrafted. Nowadays they're doing some digital watches, but even the mechanical watches, they keep time so accurately. In the year, they lose less than a second. Some of these watches, that's how well handcrafted they are. If you think of a mechanical watch, not a digital watch, and how well that is to keep time. This kind of wristwatch also, in terms of water resistance, 120 meters. How high is this ceiling here? Sorry, that's the math teacher in me asking you that. How high is this ceiling here? 3 meters. So think of this times 40. That's how far you can go with a watch like that, and it would hold time, and it would still be intact. Yeah? So they're known. So I'm going to tell you a few stories with regards to quality as we go along. Okay? And if you remind me at the end, because I'll probably forget, if you remind me at the end, I'll tell you a story of quality related to Nigeria, related to education. But that's if you remind me. Okay. I keep wanting to say, move on. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. Let's just quickly look at this. So, as a school, you can have a quality department or a quality assurance department. So, internally, you can have, in terms of evaluators, in terms of assessors, okay? You could say, we're going to have a quality insurance department. There's some schools that can afford it. There's some schools that are structured like that, and that's fine. Or you could say, maybe it's just a job for one person. In some schools, no one person, no one department deals with quality. It's diffused within a few people. So maybe the principal and some vice principals or some heads of department might be responsible for quality. And that's how it is in terms of internally. However, on the other hand, you might be saying to yourself, we want to join a body like ASEN or APEN or NAPS. Do we know NAPS? Do we know AFED? Yes, or COBIS. So sometimes that's the reason why people might sometimes come in to evaluate or to assess what you're doing in terms of your holistic education. So ASEN, do we know ASEN? Do we know what it breaks down to? Association of International School Educators of Nigeria. And I've been told that Sir here, I believe you're Mr. Todd, I've been told that he's one of the 4 that started. You are one of the 4, so I think, was it Mr. Pope and yourself? Was Howard Bullock one of those? Okay, who are the other 2, please? Okay, it'll come to him. I'll put him on the spot. Jeff. Okay, okay. Okay, so that's how ASEN started. So let's clap for Mr. Todd, please. Yes, it's coming up. Yes. So glad to meet you, and I'll still come and have a chat with you later if that's all right. Okay, so that's how ASEN started as a boys' club almost 4 years ago. That's how Mr. Pope tells the story. Okay, so you might want to become a member of ASEN, and I'll tell you as well. See, this is the reason why it's good for you invited me, is that I once used to be the CEO of ASEN. Yes. So this was about 2000, and in fact, I'll tell you the year. It was 2014. As soon as I left Agbo, for 6 months or so, I was the CEO, and I went to see a number of schools within that time. I wouldn't say as an inspection, but as an evaluator, and would give them the paperwork to fill in, and I'll decide whether, well, myself and the other person who worked in the office, whether they should join ASEN or not, on my recommendation or not. Okay? Association of Private Educators in Nigeria. Do we know this? You know they've got a conference coming up when? Yeah, APEN. They've got a conference coming up when? Last week of this month. Yes, so if you haven't signed up, you might want to sign up. Yours truly might be the host again. So, APEN there, you know another name for APEN? I call it the Billionaires Club. They're all billionaires. Trust me on this. You can bank. You can take that to the bank, yes? Naps is there, Cobis is there. So sometimes they say they're coming in to either bring you into their association, or you're already a member and they're saying, well, to retain your membership, we need to come and see what you're doing, and that the standards we saw initially, you are still keeping those standards. Okay? So this is some of the reasons whereby you'd have assessors or evaluators come in, or sometimes without anyone coming in anyway. So the only thing I'm going to say about this is that regardless of who is coming in or who is not coming in, you owe it to the children in your care. Yes? So yes, you owe them that duty of care, but you owe them a duty of giving them the very best. Did we see that video of that woman? It was almost like she was preaching. She had that kind of preacher cadence, but it was coming from there. Yeah? Because she cared. And that's the reason why, you know, it's such a wonderful video, because she was saying, I've experienced it. And so even if there's going to be no quality assurance, we still have to, from an external body, we still have to deliver. It's crucial that we deliver to the very best of our potential. Or if you want, that's why the company I run is called that Maxpoint, maximizing the potential of every single child. Yes, they're not going to come by that way again, so you best do the best by them when they're there. So, Office of Education Quality Assurance. So I said we're going to look at two frameworks. One is this OEQA, since I've been through the process twice, and the other one we're going to look at in a moment is COBIS. So, in terms of OEQA, there are 8 things in terms of their criteria. When they come into your school, they're going to look at 8 things. One of them is really a collection of everything you do, which is the overall effectiveness of your school. So if you want, it's cumulative of everything that you're doing. The other thing is about achievement and standards. And I don't think I have time to break it down today, but you do know, or if I said to you, is there a difference between achievement and attainment? I'm talking to you as pedagogue now. So if I said to you, is there a difference? Don't look away from me. It's you I'm asking all of you. Is there a difference between achievement and attainment? And I'm going to pause there for a moment in case anyone does want to answer. But there's a big difference. I'm just going to use the language of assessment for the moment. If you want later, I'll give you a further breakdown. But achievement is to do with yourself. Have you improved on what you did yesterday? Attainment is, this is our it's criteria and reference. That's how I would say in the assessment literature. But what we're really saying is that we have, so it's, it's like WIAC will say, if you get 80 and above, you're going to get what? An A1. Is that what it is? Fair enough. So if you achieve 81, you get your A1. Okay? But I can still tell you that there's some people who achieve A1s, so there's some people who attain A1s who probably have not fulfilled their true potential. Because maybe they should be getting 95. Yes? So whilst they're happy with their 81, that they've got an A1, which is probably the highest you can get, but I might be there as a teacher and I'll be saying, you know what, yes, you did well, you attained the highest, but in terms of achievement, it wasn't quite there. And that's a key thing to note. And I can also tell you that this is the reason why we did get COBIS. Because we had a pre-inspection, which is something else that will come up. So if you want, we had a pre-inspection before COBIS in Meadow Hall. And one thing we realized was that when we were looking at what we call VA, value added, you might want to put this down. I know it's a bit technical, but help me write down these few things. Value added. When we were looking at value added, it didn't seem that our students were making that much in terms of gains or in terms of value added when it came to maths and English. Okay? So what we had to do was strip down and not use your traditional model for calculating value added, but we had to reference English baseline to English at their exit. Likewise, we had to do the same for mathematics, and only then did we start to see the value added. And then another mitigating factor we could bring into it is that you do realize that the maths we do in this country, especially if you in a school whereby they run both the Nigerian and the British curriculum, the maths that some students are doing in year 6 is equivalent to what the British curriculum is doing in year 9. And so if that's your main exam, you'll find that there's little value little value to add. Yeah? So that was another reason why the results were there. And it was because we could do that calculation for them. They realized you are adding as much value as you can. Yeah? It's because they're coming in with a much higher baseline than your typical student probably in the UK, if you will. Yeah? Okay, so overall effectiveness, achievement and standards, you need someone who can calculate it. So to go back in my story a bit, and if you want, you can check on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you will find my full bio there. You will find out I started life as a teacher of mathematics, and then my first position was deputy head of mathematics. But when I was made assistant head teacher in the UK, it was because I was going to run data, and I started to run data for our school and for other schools, and of course that helped me in terms of talking the language of value added. So, let's just say, move on the slides. Curriculum quality and safeguarding. Curriculum quality is rather straightforward, but I hope you heard what the Honourable Commissioner said. Did you hear what she said with regards to curriculum? Someone asked me this question the other day, what about curriculum, what about curriculum? I said, if I'm going to start a school, I would have my own curriculum. It would not be British, it would not be Nigerian, it would not be American, it would not be Canadian. It would be specific for that locality and for the students within the school. It would be a relevant curriculum. Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Please.
What you just said now, I'm asking if, for example, you don't go like a mouse.
Yes.
Or maybe Alfred or who.
Yeah.
And because this particular thing, after that lady asked the question, I've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
I run my school in a low quality place. That's more like a rural area. But then I go for trainings like this, and I'm seeing something different. Now, but because you are, or I would say we are being boxed, you have to follow a particular pattern or a particular curriculum, or else parents will say, some parents don't, you cannot explain to every parent that this is what you are trying to do. So in that case, what advice would you give to me? Because I see what is happening in our environment, I see what the children can become if we can tweak the program. For example, let me use this example. There's a child that came from the village. This child is very brilliant. If you use Yoruba to read the exam question, she will do very well. But once it comes to English, it has been a problem. Even when we are trying to do foundation to teach our English. But we have another one that when it gets to the exam hall, we have what we call special center. They read for them in pidgin English. But not all parents understand it this way. So I want to ask, what's your advice based on what you have said?
Okay, let me try and get some more context. I like the question. Let's just clap for that question, because I love that question. Let me try and get some more context. If I said to you, you want me to speak to you as a teacher or as a leader, maybe you're the principal, I don't know. You're the owner of the school. Okay, so there's the exam game, which you all have to play, because if they come into your school and they're now, is it a primary school or a secondary school? Both, okay. So in a primary school, you're thinking you want them to go to good secondary schools. So they have to pass some entrance exam into those good secondary schools, as you see it, okay? When it comes to the secondary school, they've probably got to do NECO, they've probably got to do WIEC. So you have to play the exam game to some degree. But even within that, you can still make your lessons relevant, you can still make them exciting. Because if you were only just to teach the Nigerian curriculum, I'd imagine you're maybe using the Nigerian curriculum in the main. Is that, do you only use the Nigerian curriculum, or do you use some other curriculum as well? The Lagos State curriculum. Perfect. But you see, even within that, I would be bored if I had to just teach only what was in the Nigerian curriculum. So I know that as a teacher, and if you give your teachers the leeway to be able to, as long as they still get the grades, and in fact, for some of them, they will get better grades because they bring in some things which are relevant. What area are you staying in? Ajegunle, even better. So you see, there are a lot of things around Ajegunle, okay, for the cameras, yeah? There are a lot of things around Ajegunle which you need to bring in, around your locale, your environment, that you need to bring in. And you mentioned another good thing when you said Yoruba there, because I'm not too sure if any of you have heard of the IFE 6 Years Project. You haven't heard of IFE? Okay, put it down, go and do a bit of research, but let me give you a bit of context into that IFE 6 Years Project. What's his name? Babs Fafuma, who became Minister of Education. He wasn't Minister of Education at the time. He had just come across from America. I think it was in the University of Nsukka. And there was a teacher there. He went to go and see the teacher teaching. And she was teaching, and everyone was excited, and the hands were going up. And She then said, she asked them a question and hands were going up. And he said, oh, you must give me the answer in English. And the hands came down. And that's when he started to think, maybe in primary school, we need to start teaching them. And so if you go and read the If There's 6 Years project, don't quote it out of context. Within context, it's very clear about what it's saying. Yes? Because some people remember Babs Fafuma when he was Minister of Education, when he was able to implement that. And they say, oh, he's the man who was saying native tongue, native tongue. It wasn't just about native tongue. It was about learning. About learning. If you travel to Germany now, you want to do your first degree, you're going to have to learn German, I'm afraid. Yeah, and so many other countries like that. And, oh gosh, we don't have time to go into it, but the question is this. Is it just a language or is it a way of thinking? When we say teach in a certain language, is it just a language that's being taught or being used as communication, or is it the way of thinking? And that's what you've got to try and understand, and that's the reason why there are good reasons why up to a certain age, I would certainly say up to about maybe year 3 in some certain areas, basic 3 in certain areas, you need to consider the language that most of them can speak, because that's what they think, that's the language they're thinking in. That's the language they can express themselves in. Okay, so where am I? So safeguarding. What's the question to ask with regards to safeguarding? If I said to you the 4 types of abuses that we often quote, do we know them? The 4 types of abuses under safeguarding. But well, Mr. Adidoko knows, you see. But you see, safeguarding is more important than even, you see, I've been converted. I used to be like, students are almost like walking numbers. They were levels to me, or they were like, A stars to me. I used to love getting them, or us working towards an A star, but I started to you know what? It was Mrs. Adifisayo. I sat in front of her one day and she asked me the question. She said, in terms of character, in terms of academic, what's the balance? I said 30%, 70%. She said, no, at least it should be 50-50. But safeguarding is so important. Yes, character is important, but safeguarding is so important. If children are not safe, what are you going to teach them? Yeah? If you teach them everything you can and they get all the good grades, but there's abuse going on, you've got to ask yourself the question, is that right? Okay, so they're looking at safeguarding, they're looking at your teaching and learning, that's your pedagogy, they're looking at your leadership. You know what John Maxwell says with regards to the law of the lid. Have you heard the law of the lid from Mr. Maxwell, John C. Maxwell? Yes? Everything rises and falls on leadership. Quality of the learning environment. Again, a lot of that's to do with safeguarding. Yes? So if this were to be a classroom for a moment, if I said to you, can you see any dangers? We've tucked some things underneath, but maybe some things should even be taken down. You'd look at what's on the wall in terms of the electricity plugs or the sockets. Yeah, so quality of your learning environment. I tell you one big thing. When I used to go around for ASEN, in that 6 months when I went around for ASEN, I used to say to them, if a school does not have adequate place for children to play, there's some schools which are on 1 plot of land or on 2 plots of land, and then the playground is all of this. That's the playground. There's a big thing. And if I said to you, there's a person called Bovey, he's a comedian. Do you know Bovey? He said one of the reasons why he chose one of the schools I was in at the time, he said, is because it reminds me of my own primary school where I had a big place to play. And that affects the mind. Yes, open spaces, open minds, they are linked. Okay, personal skills, this is personal skills and participation of the learner, which if you think about it, can be linked under pedagogy. Okay, so that's the framework for your Office of Education Quality Assurance. I think for the one for OTC, everything was 1-1-1-1-1, even though the teaching and learning, there were 1 or 2, how do I put this? There were 1 or 2 people they saw whose lessons were not outstanding. But nonetheless, overall, they still gave us outstanding in spite of that. Yes, because of leadership in particular. Okay, this is for COBIS. You can see on their website. And on their website, in this brochure where this has been pulled from or culled from, you would probably see someone in a pink shirt that looks like me. But to get compliance, you have these 6 standards. Can I get you to read them for me, please?
Standard 1, safeguarding and safer recruitment. Number 2, student welfare. Standard 3, facilities.
If I said to you, if you remember what Thank you, sir. Even though I'm saying there are two frameworks, there's a lot of similarities between them. Please continue.
Standard 4, governance. 5, ethos and values. 6, boarding. 7, learning and teaching.
So pause for a minute. So you see the first 6 are compliance. They're the ones you need to fulfill to be able to obtain compliance. And
7, learning and teaching. 8, leadership in the school. 9, communication. And standard 10, extracurricular enrichment and engagement.
thank you very much. Let's clap for our reader, please. We like to say co-curricular. Even though in the last time we had COBIS, it was just for compliance, by default, they're going to still look at your learning and teaching. Okay? And of course, they're going to look at your leadership, because if not for the leadership, how do all these things get fulfilled? The main difference between both frameworks, if I said to you, what's the main difference? I'm going to let you look at this for about 30 more seconds. I'm going to flick back. If I said there are like 2 which are in the COBIS, which are not here, can you identify one of them at least? Communication, probably yes. Co-curricular. Just in terms of compliance. Safer recruitment. Safer recruitment may come in under good one. It's not really there. It's not really there. But if anything, it's part of safeguarding. It's a key part of safeguarding, actually. So if they extend it enough, it would be there. But can you see this one? So come and speak to Sir. He said he's sitting on the board of the UK. There's a very clear way about how schools are composed. I've been fortunate as well to be on the board. I was a teacher governor, yes, as at the time in my school in East London, good old East London, yes. I was there as a teacher governor. So I learned a lot from it. That's the reason why I could quickly go up the education ladder, as it were. So governance, this is something for you to consider, sir. Yes, you own the school. Yes, sir. You own the school. The question is, who are those working with you? Who are those you liaise with to ensure that it's not just in your mind that you're doing the very best? If you want an objective, what do we call it, a critical friend, or someone people who can be critical, who could offer you friendly advice. That's what a lot of schools, even some of the very best schools, might be missing. That very important. Ethos and values is that, do you have the ethos and values? Because you see, remember COBIS, the B stands for fairness, sense of judgment, a sense of balance. Yeah? So these are some of the things we're talking about when it comes to ethos and values. The truth is that many people would struggle with that. But if you've got the background, if you've been in the UK for a while, like Sir's been there, you would have an idea of what's been spoken about and some of the things you could present. Often we can present it in terms of debate. Remember what Mrs. Adefisayo said? She said there were elections. And she said, in that particular school, how did they take elections? They resisted it. It's like, what do you mean elections? We know this is our head girl now. Who else could it be? No, not so easy. Yeah, let's have a bit more, a bit more. Let everyone have a say. Why not? Democracy, rule of law. Okay, so we're coming to an end now. 7 tips. I'm going to try and finish in the next 2 minutes. SCF stands for self-evaluation form. Whether you're thinking of joining any organization, whether you're thinking, but if there's one thing I would say is always be ready. If you're in Lagos State, always be ready for who? The Office of Education Quality Assurance. They can come in at any time. One was 3 days notice, one was a day's notice. So always be ready for them. Go on their website, fill in the self-evaluation form. The self-evaluation form is about 30 pages. Try and get it, yes? Okay. But look, it's good practice. In fact, it will bring out things, it will bring to your attention things you should be focusing on and improving. What did I say this is? SIP, School Improvement Plan, School Development Plan. Have one. Surveys. Do you have surveys in your school? Who do you survey? I often try and... Please go ahead. You're on the right track.
Parents, yes. The children, yes. And the staff, yes. I guess.
That's it. You can even have more than that. But those 3, 1 per term. First term, I often like to see what the students are saying to us. Then I go on to their parents. Second term, third term, we like to see what the staff are saying. And then it could also feed into your performance management appraisal if you want. Involve all your stakeholders. internal, external, however you want to break it down, involve everyone. As I said to you in that first slide, it involves everyone. It's about the collective. It's about, don't leave anyone out. Don't think that person's position is too small, that person, or if you want, the owner need not be involved. You see, if they start to question the owner and they see that the owner has a certain vision, but what's being implemented is different, that difference in itself becomes a big thing for them, because they don't know where you're going next, or where you say you're going next. They cannot guarantee that you're going to get there, because there's a conflict, an internal conflict. And even if you don't realize, I was supposed to work with a certain school, I certainly won't mention the school, but there were 3 people involved. And they thought they shared the same vision, but I could see as clear as day that they were competing visions, and I thought, don't get involved. They eventually pulled in someone last year, I could say an expat, and within, the person's gone now. Sorry, yeah? You got to resolve some things. Try and have a mock inspection. We had a mock inspection. It was after the mock inspection that we had a bit of a meltdown. We can't do it. We're not ready. And I said, calm down. Calm down. You see, even this morning I was there on the football field running around in Yabatek. I still play football. So I know what it is about teamwork. I know what it is about relaxing. Sometimes you're 2 goals down and you know you're going to rebound. You know you can come back. You're looking at the scene. It's about strategy. And so calm ourselves down. Let's work as a team, knowing when to peak. That's the last one. But also be intentional. You've heard, who's it? Covey, who says, start with the end in mind. Start with the end in mind. Be intentional. Yes? Write it down. Follow it through step by step. Okay? I can break that down a bit more, but we need to push on. So really, let's just go to our question and answers, because I'd like to see if we can spend 5-10 minutes on question and answers, because I feel in the questions, if you've been making notes, the questions you ask me, I'll be able to give you some more in-depth responses, at least particular to what you're doing, particular to your context. So, thank you for listening. Any questions? And then I'll come to you next, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay, I have a question with respect to Kobe's. I wanted to confirm if, with Kobe's, are parents also involved? I know his school mentioned that their parents are always involved, and so basically, how will, of course, the school will need to share whatever with the parents, but what are the things they will discuss with the parents and all those things, so that parents too will have an idea? Because I know that Kobe's comes and just randomly pick a parent they see and ask questions, and they'll be able to know if it aligns with the vision and everything and all that. So how would schools that don't really know about these things involve parents more? Because that's a major problem I know I've observed over time.
Okay, so 3 months ago, even before I said the person who came in, the lead improvement partner, he came in for 2.5 days. Even before those 2.5 days, he had said to us, I would like to meet with 6 parents and speak to them. And of course, you try and choose parents who are on side. I don't think they quite ask you for a list and say, we're going to select for you. No, they say, give us an idea. Because, I mean, of course, it has to be a convenient time for the parents as well. So they say, find a time when people, so you've got to select them. And I actually watched it. I wouldn't say it was stage managed, but they were very much on side. And he kept asking, is there anything you'd want to tell us? Is there anything you feel the schooling could improve about? And they said, school's fine. School's very good. And I thought, I'm sure there are 1 or 2 things you want us to improve about, but they were just totally on side. Another thing to consider is that in the composition, you see, if you've worked in a UK school before, like me, comprehensive, there's a particular composition for your governing board. You would always have some parents there, so you'd have parent governors. In fact, when I was there, one of the chairs was a parent governor. So you see, that's another way that they're connecting with parents. So parents' involvement, you cannot run away from it. Even if you don't want to call it a PTA, what else do we call it? Parents Association, Parents Forum. Make sure you're in touch with the parents. Yes. I've heard 1 or 2 owners say, I feel they can take the school away from me. No, they can't take the school away from you. Unless you want to give the school away. They're not going to take the school away from you. Because you see, it's your vision. And as long as you're running it, you see, what you're going to realize, and I do tell parents this sometimes, that there's a school for every child. And not every child needs to come to this particular school because you've got your vision. Be clear about that. Yes, sir. I'll take your question.
Thank you very much. I think you have answered a number of questions in my heart. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, so as part of a little challenge that we have, you talked about carrying the parent along or stakeholders, and then when you have parents who are not, they are not online inclined. 1, 2, you come for physical meetings, you hardly see them. In short, the area where we are, most parent-teachers meetings are attended by the women. So and if you look at it, if you weigh it, the female gender, if you weigh it, those women, a lot of them are not, in short, they don't even know the class their children belong to. So how do you marry this thing, especially getting them involved? We have tried physical, we have tried the online to create a WhatsApp group. You don't get them. We have tried to bring somebody to train online. You just see 1 or 2 parents. That's one on involving.
Let me just answer that one because I don't necessarily store questions in my head. But you've asked actually a number of questions there. And what I see is that, I'm not saying you're blaming the parents. There's really nothing to blame them for. I mean, if I were to be flippant, I would say it's because they're trying to make money to pay the school fees. But no, I'm not going to be flippant today. To really answer the question is this. Just like how we need to engage the students. Sometimes you hear people say a child is L-A-Z-Y. There's no such thing. Take it from me, there is no such thing. When you see each child in the area they like, you think it's a different child. Yeah? So it's about, just as you have to engage students, you have to engage parents as well. I'll tell you 1 or 2 ways. If I said to you project-based learning, PBL, you might want to write that down. Project-based learning. If you design a project which they have to, it could even be a simple project like, family tree. Yeah? The parents have to become involved in that. If you'd say it's a history project, something that happened 20 years ago, because of course for young children that's ancient history. Yes? If you design something around that, they're going to have to start to involve their parents. So you see, sometimes it's not that parents do not want to engage. Of course, time is short. Sometimes if it's an online challenge, it could be a case of arranging a data package as part of the school fees. Yes, there are many ways of trying to, skin this cat. So you've got to look at it like, in our particular area, what is it that's going to draw in the parents? Another way schools are doing it, they say, okay, so one of the things we're thinking about a month's time with parents is going to be safeguarding, especially safeguarding for students who are going abroad. That's going to bring the parents in. Or sometimes we speak to them about finance. Yes? So of course, everyone now is concerned about the exchange rate. So if we were to say something about how to ensure your money retains value, and we bring in someone like, because in our school we could probably bring in someone like Tony Elumenu, you do realize that if we have that for the first 10 minutes, parents are going to be there. So you've got to find a way of connecting more of your parents. And it's easy to think that, they don't want to be concerned or they're not bothered. They are. But of course, there are other things going on. But you've got to make yours the top priority and really attract them to come in.
Thank you, sir. Okay, the other one is, let me ask the 2 questions together.
All right.
Now, you always find out that after some time, they'll say, let's start doing history. It becomes an added subject to the subject that are much. I know some schools that they streamline their subject to maybe 6, 7. But for some of us in that place, by the time they go to another school and they see they are offering cultural art and you're not offering it, already you have primary school offering 12, 13 subjects. And then Lagos State comes up with a policy, put history, comes up with another policy, put security education, and then you still want us to do enrichment or extracurriculum programs. I think some of these things get too much for the children.
Okay, again, a number of ways of looking at it. The good thing in primary school is that as long as your maths and English is solid, and most people do that, they prioritize your maths and English. And sometimes what you will find out is that rather than even having what we call a 5-day timetable, you can have a 6-day timetable, you can have a 7-day timetable. It's your school. You decide. So what it comes down to is that you're trying to share the time available between the other subjects, as it were. Yeah? So, but history is so important. History is so important. So the government is right in trying to bring it back. It's just for schools to find a way of how to bring it in. And again, it doesn't have to all be taught in the classroom. And another thing to consider is, if I said to you flipped learning, have you heard of flipped learning? You see, that's a model we might want to consider because it saves quite a bit of time, and it can save the exposition time, the time that it takes to actually explain things to people. Yeah? So that's another way of trying to save time. There are quite a number of ways. Where there's a will, there is a way. Yes, creativity, most definitely. I totally agree. Right, I think Mr. Adidok is about to come and wrangle the mic from me, so maybe if there's a final question, or are we done? We're done? Thank you very much.
A round of applause for Mr. Ola Opesan. A round of applause, please. Now it's time to invite Mrs. Rotimi on stage to present to the recipient.
Thank you very much for your time. We really enjoy your lecture, and I'm going away with something. SEF, I have to go try that. Thank you very much. We appreciate you.
Photos, please. Thank you very much.